This is Duke University.
One summer in Damak, glimpses of life in a Bhutanese refugee camp. For 6 weeks in June and July 2011, a group of Duke University students and faculty lived in Damak, Nepal as part of the Bhutanese Resettlement Project, a program of the Kenan Institute for Ethics. They traveled daily with a team of Nepali research assistants to refugee camps to collect life stories through photography, mapping, and oral interviews. The interviews reveal diverse lives filled with complex and ever-changing challenges. Questions of responsibility weave their way throughout these stories, often highlighting contradictions between the world people want to construct for themselves and the world in which they are bound to live. The photographs in this exhibit, some of them taken by refugees themselves as they narrated their lives, reflect everyday life in the refugee camps in eastern Nepal. Over 100,000 exiles from Bhutan have resided in these camps for nearly 20 years. As refugees, these women, men, and children lack citizenship rights anywhere and are dependent upon humanitarian aid for most of their basic needs. Since 2008, with little hope of returning to Bhutan or being welcomed as citizens of Nepal, third country resettlement has begun. Most of these refugees are destined for the United States. While resettlement offers the promise of eventual citizenship, it is also a source of fresh anxieties. However, within this context of insecurity and uncertainty, the refugees have filled their lives with beauty, work, leisure, school, worship, family, and friends.
Damak, July 6, 2011. I'm so grateful to have had this opportunity to come to Damak for the research we've done in the camps. As we've done our research, I've learned so much about fieldwork. We've learned about the culture, we tweaked the interview questions together, and we tried to learn how exactly our research would work. I've learned how to work with a partner and a field assistant. I've learned how to be comfortable in an interview, which came with time, and I learned many methods as we did our research. And aside from all those things, I'm so grateful I had the opportunity to talk to refugees here in the camps. I loved every moment of our research. Who knew doing research could be so fun? We just had real conversations with people, and getting to know this population has been amazing. After hearing everything they've had to say to us here, it's amazing how upbeat and optimistic most of the people here are.
The research team worked with 24 refugees to produce their life stories. Interviews typically took 2 or 3 visits. Most involved photos and drawings. Common themes emerged, among them the value of work, the importance of family, and the uncertainties of camp life. Each, though, had its own unique emphasis and flow. In our research and through this exhibit, we hope to have helped them maintain some links to the stories, places, and people that have given meaning to their lives.
Sanashare, June 9th, 2011. New life is so refreshing to see in refugee camps. Maybe because I expect refugee camps to be places of sorrow, death, frustration, sadness, but I've noticed a lot of life in this camp. From the new baby whose parents are showing him off, to the newly planted, pristine garden, and even the little baby animals. I'm sure life here is hard and frustrating, but at least it gives the appearance of a place where normal life happens.
International aid organizations structure much of the daily lives of the refugee camps. They are responsible for camp security, health care, food provision, sanitation, and education. Schools in the refugee camps are based on the Bhutanese system and run by an international aid organization. Young people can attend schools in the camps through level 10, roughly equivalent to 10th grade. The classroom routine is highly disciplined, and teachers are treated with great respect. Education is not just for the young. Adults of all ages, particularly women, fill English language classes. These classes provide structure and purpose for the students and help ease their anxieties about resettlement.
To my June 15th, 2011. In the afternoon, on the way to our interview, I noticed a woman sitting on her porch, slowly writing on a piece of paper. She had a wooden pencil in her right hand, held the paper down with her left hand, and was crouched over, focused on her task. We briefly talked to her and found out that she was learning how to write, now focusing on how to write her name. The paper had her name repeatedly written in capital block letters neatly across the page. This seems to be a recurring theme, with education much valued, especially for those who didn't get an opportunity to receive a good education before.
Bhutanese refugees identify as Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, and Karat. The significance of religious identity varies widely. From boisterous festival dancing to contemplative study of sacred texts, religious practice takes multiple forms and meanings. One person finds purpose in his commitment to Buddhist practices that have provided him a path since birth. Another finds that performing puja rituals each day helps her feel personally calm and centered. Yet another finds relief in her choice to follow Christianity after having been born into a Hindu family, believing that her conversion has been responsible for all subsequent good fortune. Religious identity often serves as a guide for interaction, providing strict rules regarding whom one can marry and with whom one can eat. At the same time, many residents express tolerance towards religious difference, with some even articulating a view that all people are worshiping the same God, just in different forms.
Tamai, June 10th, 2011. As we watched the Karat celebration, a man accompanied us, explaining the meaning of the festival to the students, but I struggled to hear over the sounds of celebrating. At one point, an older woman in white pulls me away and asks me something in Nepali. A man standing nearby translates and tells me that she wants a picture. I agree, and she gets an older man from inside the temple, and they both stand together in front of another smaller, emptier temple nearby. I take their picture, but when I offer to show it, they seem uninterested, as though all that mattered was that there was a record of them somewhere.
Typical daily household activity in the camps include collecting water from camp water pumps, washing dishes, laundering clothes, repairing houses, and cooking. Additionally, many people seek paid work in order to be able to buy school supplies for their children, to supplement their rations, and to outfit their homes. In the camps, commercial activity flourishes. Small stores sell sundries, and shops provide services like bicycle repair, metalwork, and tailoring. Many refugees also volunteer in camp organizations, providing community mediation, assisting for vulnerable populations, and mentoring for troubled youth. Outside the camps, refugees flow each day into surrounding towns to jobs in construction, hotels, shops, and restaurants. Not seen in these photos is the work that is being done by absent refugees. As resettled refugees earn paychecks in their new countries, they send money to family members who remain in the camps. Western Union locations crowd the camp's perimeters. All of these activities reflect prevailing beliefs that work is necessary and is to be valued, even as possibilities for legal employment are limited for people with refugee status.
Beldongi 2, July 5th, 2011. Vishnu's description of the photo of the woman spinning thread was pretty amazing. She started talking about how women were raped in Bhutan and their plight, and I was lost as to how it connected to spinning thread. But then she started talking about how women can earn money with spinning to send their kids to school, but she feels so bad when she sees them working because it is such a last resort job. Then I remembered her mom put her through school by spinning thread. And this one photograph held so much to her, the story of what it meant to be a woman in Bhutan, a selfless mother, and a female breadwinner. Vishnu was one of the most affectionate mothers I've ever met. Every move she made revolved around her son. Every gesture she made to him said, "You are the most precious thing I have ever had."
In the camps, the houses are constructed so close together that if one were to sit in the kitchen of one house and shout to a friend in a house 3 doors down, she would hear and respond. Hut doors are open and visitors enter casually and unannounced. People sit at the doors of their huts while gossiping with friends and watching foot and bicycle traffic pass. Contemplating resettlement, the loss of friends and the fear of isolation are much on the minds of camp residents. Some Bhutanese refugees have decided not to resettle, and they know they are unlikely ever to reunite with friends who have moved to distant countries. Those who have chosen to resettle know that they are likely to be resettled near family members, but it would only be by chance if they resettled near friends. They are optimistic about making new friends wherever they find themselves placed, but they regret losing the familiar ease of friendships they had for a lifetime. Older refugees remember their childhoods. Many of them spent tending cattle and plowing fields. Their stories reveal relationships of affection and betrayal, abandonment and attachment, pleasure and sorrow. Most do not describe carefree lives, but they were rooted lives. The work they performed and the paths they walked connected them to parents and grandparents. Many wish they could return to a time and place when they owned land and could support themselves. And when pondering what they have to pass on to their children, many say they have nothing. Younger refugees do not tend to be nostalgic about Bhutan and credit the camps for providing them with education and security, benefits they would not have had if they stayed. Others look at the poverty that surrounds them in Nepal and observe that being a refugee provides an opportunity where they might find a secure future by resettling to a stable country with a more developed economy. Old and young who are resettling now know that the family roles that they have played in the refugee camps are unlikely to continue once they move. Already, elderly men and women who are accustomed to leading their families have found themselves led by children into the decision to resettle. Children, who traditionally look to their parents for counsel and support, are aware of the responsibility they will bear to look after parents who are too old to work or who do not speak English. Enthusiasm about resettlement is tempered by anxiety, as family members worry about failing to fulfill obligations towards one another.
Tamai, June 10th, 2011. Our van sped past a few large IOM buses full of refugees going to the airport. I tried to focus on the people in the bus in the few seconds that I had. I saw a woman with a child on her lap at the front of the bus next to the driver. I definitely saw distress and sadness on her face as she sat silently on the bus. I always imagined leaving the camps to resettle and begin their new life to be something that everyone would be ecstatic about. But after seeing the refugees' lifestyles and interactions in the camp, I now realize how tough leaving would be. People in the camps are constantly surrounded by their loved ones, friends, close and extended families, and other people that have similar origins, cultures, or religions as them. Leaving the camps is not just leaving Nepal, a country that the refugees fled to for shelter, anymore. Leaving the camps is leaving behind customs, cultures, stories, friends, families, and most importantly, familiarity.
More than 100 people, most of them refugees, packed the first floor hallway of the West Duke building for the opening of One Summer in Damak, Glimpses of Life in a Bhutanese Refugee Camp. It was the first time that most of the students and refugees had seen each other since the summer. Seeing the exhibition for the first time prompted much excitement. Most of the 100,000 refugees we spoke of in this video will be resettled in third countries, many of them moving to North Carolina.
Produced by Duke University. Online at duke.edu.